Sup fellow degenerates, it's your boy Rot and welcome back to the channel, though if you're new here, then hi, hello, howdy-yo, nice to have you. A few months ago, August of last year, wow, it's been a while, I made a video about my sudden realization that I am a dude actually. Up until that point, I had identified as non-binary for a while before I came to accept that, yeah, sweaty, I'm super hacking trans. You know, that video was made like less than a month after I came out to my friends and family, and because of that swiftness, I said a lot of things about, you know, the way that I felt and my experience that I realized aren't actually all that true or accurate anymore. In retrospect, and as I've come to analyze my past feelings and behaviors, I've made a lot of discoveries about myself. Now, I know what y'all are thinking. In the past, I said that I was going to try and refrain from talking about myself and my life or feelings on my channel, and so some people might be confused as to why I'm choosing to do so now. I've also done some thinking on that, and I've decided that I don't really want a couple of annoying parasocials to ruin something that I actually, enjoy doing. I know that me getting enjoyment out of endlessly talking about myself is supposed to be egotistical or something, but I guess I'm just an egomaniac and you all have to live with that now. You subscribed, you asked for this, I am not sorry. I'm joking. Before I get into all of that though, I want to stop and take a moment to thank Bone Ink and Cotton Balls for being members on Ko-Fi. If you're able to and want to support me monetarily, then my Ko-Fi is down in the card link below. You could either make a one-time donation with a value of your choosing, or you could become a member for some extra perks, such as commission discounts, access to my work-in-progress art, and the benefit of having your name featured in my videos. Just like this. Also, I just like money. Fork it over, losers. JK Illy, you're not losers. Okay, well maybe you are if you're subscribed to me, but that's okay. Losers, freaks, and degenerates are all my favorite breed, truly. Besides that, I have also, drumroll please, updated my comm sheet and my prices for chibis. A whap bap boom, here's the new comm sheet. Shia kazing! Do you perhaps want me to draw your OCs? Or fan art of your favorite Tumblr sexy man? What about things of the abnormal and deranged variety, like your OCs doing a gore to each other? Maybe you want me to draw your OCs playing hide the sausage? And what if you wanted me to draw your OCs doing a gore while also doing a sex to each other? Then I would be your man. Hit me up, girly pops. This bitch is horrible. I'm so sorry. No, I'm not, actually. If you'd also like to order a commission from me and my magic fingers, that sounded horrible. If you'd also like to order a commission from me, then you can find my prices and terms on the commission terms page in my card, which is linked down below. To order one, you just need to DM me on any one of my socials. Shameless self-promo out of the way, let's get into it. Or not, actually, because before I get into my experience being a tran, I might as well update people on where the hell I've been because I haven't posted anything in like 3 months. And I haven't posted anything good in even longer. If you want to skip my little where I've been speech because you either don't care or because you've been to my streams and already know what I've been doing, then you can just go to the next chapter of this video. Skip ahead if you want, I guess, I don't mind. Okay, so why did I dematerialize and disappear for like 3 months? Well, first of all, I just haven't felt like making videos outside of a big one that I've been preparing for since early December, which I'll explain in a second. I just haven't really had that many ideas for videos, and those I actually want to make are a bit daunting in nature. Even writing this script has been a bit difficult because I am more interested in working on the notes for my next video, which, as you would know if you've been keeping up on my streams, is a video reviewing every single horrible thing on tiers 1 through 5 of the Disturbing Movies iceberg, if you've heard of it. I originally started watching the movies on it in December for funsies and my own amusement, but it quickly spiraled into an obsessive hyperfixation to the point that even now that I'm done with the 80+ movies I had to watch, I'm still expanding my horizons by watching more of them. I'm addicted, I think. I found a deep and intense passion for disturbing and obscure cinema, and I just really want to talk about some of the stuff that I saw. So I'm currently working on all the notes for that video so that I can make it. Besides that, how do I explain this? I also ended up with a has-been hotel hyperfixation against my will, It has swallowed me whole, and even though I didn't think that the show was very good, I am writing so much fanfiction and drawing the characters obsessively. Please God, save me. So yes, I've literally just been gone because I've been watching shit like Slow Torture Puke Chamber and a Serbian film, and also because I've been writing has-been hotel fanfics. My life is an absurdist comedy at this point. Girl, where am I? With all of that out of the way, allow me to introduce myself for any new viewers that may be popping in on this one, which, hi! I'm sorry that this is the first video you've seen of me. You probably think that I'm a freak. Well, okay, you would be right about that, actually. My name is Victor, spelled V-I-K-T-O-R, and shortened to Vic, V-I-K. Online, I go by Rottika, shortened to just Rot with one T. I'm a very good artist who has never made a bad piece of art in his life, who you should totally give money to. And I also do things like write and create my own characters in my spare time. What's important to this video is that I'm also a trans man, and have been for nearly 8 months. What's very important is that I only use he/him pronouns, and I do not like being referred to as a they/them at all. I'll get into why that is a bit later, but just keep that in mind if or when you choose to refer to me. So as I mentioned earlier, I made a video shortly after I transitioned in which I talked about my experiences and feelings regarding it. Because I made it so quickly after I came out to my friends and family and, made the initial realization about my gender, I said some things specifically about my experience, or rather lack thereof, with gender dysphoria that I have since realized are not necessarily true. In my coming out video, I said that I didn't really experience body-related dysphoria, and I said that most, if not all, of my upset came from social perception. I was disgusted by being perceived as a woman, but I didn't think that I was disgusted by my female-given body. Now, to clarify, the first thing is still very much true. I do hate being perceived as a woman, and am thus very perturbed by being misgendered a lot of the time. Admittedly, I tend to feel, less hurt by it when it's on purpose and malicious rather than when it's out of ignorance, because the former is less about being mistaken as a woman, and more about hatred and bigotry, which is kind of embarrassing on the part of the bigot and therefore more pathetic and hilarious to me than anything. Being actually confused for a woman or perceived as one is much more distressing to me than being misgendered on purpose by a couple of ding-dongs. This is also why I don't like using they/them pronouns and consider that misgendering in my case. When people know me and know that I use he/him and choose to use they/them instead, it super duper rubs me the wrong way. If they don't know who I am and what my pronouns are, then that's completely understandable. They/them is very gender neutral. It's what you would use if you didn't know what my gender was. But when people know I use exclusively he/him and still proceed with using they/them, it feels kind of like a purposeful flight. I use exclusively he/him for the exact purpose of not allowing people to erase my identity as a man. I feel like if I allowed he/they, then I'd always just be a they to people because I haven't yet gotten the chance to cut my goddamn tits off and take testosterone so that I don't sound like a chipmunk that swallowed a cheese grater. When people use they/them for me, it feels like they're tacitly implying that I'm not man enough for the man club yet, per se. And just note that I say this as kind of a unique trans person, in the sense that I prefer being called a transsexual more than a transgender, and I think of myself more as a man who was formerly a woman rather than someone who was always a man and just trapped as a woman. I'm a former woman, Gorge, not a current one. So while I am definitely still repulsed by being perceived as female, I have since realized that this is not the only thing that I am a disenjoyer of. The idea that I had no gender dysphoria about my body was actually just straight up wrong. It turns out I was just suppressing it. As I've done more thinking, I've realized that I've been experiencing bodily gender dysphoria since I was around 12 or 13, mostly about my voice first and foremost, interestingly enough. I despise my voice, truly and thoroughly, because I am acutely aware that it gives me away immediately as AFAB, and even before I was a public figure, I have hated it since I was a kid because it was always never deep enough as I'd always wanted it to be. That's not the only thing though. I have near D-cup titties and I fucking hate them. They're uncomfortable, they make my back hurt, they make running difficult, and I also just hate them and how they make me look and feel, bro. Truly stink ass. My vagina is okay, I guess. That guy never did anything wrong to me besides produce eggs, and even that's not that big of a problem now that my IUD has basically Thanos'd my periods and made it so my tokophobic ass can't get pregnant. W. I would rather just have a dick. The pain of being a top with a pussy moment. Anyways, point is, I do feel voice dysphoria, top dysphoria, and general dissatisfaction with the coochie monster. The Wookiee, if you will. That might be the worst thing you could call a vagina, actually. Wookiee. Horrible. Thus, I do plan on fully transitioning by getting top surgery and starting HRT, hopefully sometime next year. My whole process is going to be getting my name and gender legally changed, then applying for state insurance now that I'll have a new name. I'm changing the full thing, not even just my first name. And then I'll start HRT, and a year after that, I'll get top surgery. That's the goal, boys. Now, with that update on the I actually do, in fact, have gender dysphoria front, I also want to talk about another thing that I only just recently became fully aware of. So as I mentioned, after doing some thinking, I finally grasped that my first amount of gender dysphoria that I experienced was when I was around 12 or 13. While I was kind of an early bloomer and started puberty at age 10, only when it started really becoming intense did I realize that I didn't particularly enjoy being a girl. However, when I was that age, I went through this very right-wing pipeline anti-SJW cringe phase, and I was very true scummy. I thought non-binary people were just trenders and that regular binary trans people were gross or whatever. And I thought this because all of my favorite YouTubers at the time spouted that kind of bad rhetoric, and I was a stupid, dumb, impressionable child. I feel like, if I hadn't been exposed to all of that bigoted, hateful content, maybe I would have, avoided the thing that I want to talk about next. I went through an overcompensating hyper-femme phase to try and, deny the reality that I was trans. I, of course, didn't do this consciously. It's not like I thought to myself, time to be extremely girly and gender-conforming so that I don't have to confront the fact that I prefer being a dude. No, I just sort of unconsciously did that, and I only realized that I was doing that in retrospect. Let me explain. All throughout middle school, I did everything in my power to always dress feminine. I wore skirts and tutus every day, dog. And when I started working at Walmart when I was freshly 16, I wore a full face of makeup every single day that I worked there. Sans 1 or 2 days when I was too tired to do makeup or something. I basically had this almost 6-year phase of, I am a woman, I must always dress like a woman, I must always appear feminine at every moment of every day. And I think I did this to really avoid just interrogating my gender identity. This was made even worse at the time because, I was going through this really horribly bad depressive episode in my later teens, dealing with the BPD moment of all time, all the while dating a 21-year-old who would wax on about how she loved that my 17-year-old ass was a pretty woman, and who also waited until I turned 18 to start dating me, and then asked for nudes 5 days after my 18th birthday. Bruh. Basically, I was going through it. My life was very stinky. And I had an extremely tight grasp on my supposed womanhood, and I think that this was because I was already dealing with such a just unstable sense of self, and God forbid something so fundamental to my self-image as my gender be flexible and send me into this who am I really spiral. Luckily, the second that I started trying to improve on my bad borderline and self-deprecating tendencies, that was the very same second that I realized I wasn't a woman, and also realized that my ex sucked major eggs, which led me to super duper dumping her bitch ass. I still didn't really fully take in the fact that I was a trans man for a while. Instead, I actually identified as non-binary from November of 2022 to August of 2023, at which point I finally realized I was a dude through and through. I think the reason why it took me so long to fully accept that I was, a man, fully on the other side of the gender spectrum and not just an NB, was because I was still battling some internal prejudice or hesitation about wanting to physically transition. Even though non-binary identities are just as misunderstood and scrutinized, if not often more so, as binary trans identities by the average person, I kind of felt that I would be able to be less of a freak or something if I didn't want to take the steps to actually masculinize and change my body. Of course, this is not to say that anyone is a freak. That was just my own sort of weird, self-focused, warped thought process. I felt like it would be easier to just be an NB at the time because I wouldn't have to go through the effort to change how I looked drastically, and I wouldn't have to reassess who I really am inside. However, it didn't really take me all that long to realize that I wasn't happy as an NB, and I only actually found any sort of gender euphoria being referred to with he/him pronouns and, you know, as a dude. Like, I've only ever felt satisfied about my gender, like, now, ever. And even then, I'm not truly satisfied because I haven't fully transitioned, but, you know, I'm satisfied with how I perceive myself, which, you know, I wasn't that way when I was NB. It's kind of hard to describe. Gender metaphysics are complicated as shit, bro. I thought that was pretty important to talk about because maybe other trans people, whether women, men, or non-binary, can relate to the whole, you know, aggressively assimilating into cisgender normativity as a way to avoid accepting or confronting who they really are. I super duper went through this phase and only just realized it recently after reflecting on my gender and my past relationship with it, so I kind of wanted to talk about it, you know, just in case anyone was going through something similar, and it might be good to hear that, you know, like, that's not a, you know, an experience that separates you from other people, you're not alone, that kind of thing. Anyways, I was also going to originally talk about my aromanticism, because, you know, that's also another very large and important part of my identity to me, but this script is admittedly getting a bit long, and that seems like a topic for another video because it's kind of unrelated to my gender. So, let me know if you would like me to expand on what it's like to be a romance repulsed and touch-averse aromantic, and I might just do that for Pride Month or something. And there you have it. Thank you all for watching if you got to the end of this video. Rate and subscribe if you feel inclined to do so. Maybe write a comment if you have any thoughts or questions for me. Remember that all of my socials and my Ko-Fi are linked in the description if you want to support me. You know, remember, I do love money. You should also buy a commission from me if you like my art. I need money to cut my tits off. Again, I like money. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will now bid you all adieu.